So in this scenario, your battery may be 3 or 4 years old. It's been through a few harsh winters, and when you turn your key, this is what you hear. So you open your hood, and this is what you see. The battery has significant corrosion on both terminals, just like where the red arrow is pointing. And it's hard to make out from the picture, but the sides of the battery are starting to bulge. You know from the history of needing to be jump started frequently and how old it is that it's more than likely you're going to need to replace the battery. So the first step in replacing it is obviously to get the old battery out of the car. You can start by removing the clamps from the battery terminals. This usually requires a small wrench. Sometimes you may need to take a hammer and gently, I repeat, gently tap the clamp on the battery terminal. Tap it left and right a couple of times to get it loose. And then you can take a flathead screwdriver and gently pry it up a little bit on each side to get it loose. And once you can see the clamp move around, you can wiggle it loose with your hand, just like you see here. So before you try to lift the battery out, be sure to remove the bracket that's holding the battery in place. If you can't get it loose by hand, you may need to tap the wrench also. Again, gentle tapping only. There's no need to bang on it real hard. You'd be surprised, just a little bit of tapping will free it up. Once it moves a little bit, you can retighten it and then loosen it a couple of times, and it will generally free it up. Sometimes materials such as WD-40 will help also. Sorry, I was holding the camera in one hand and the wrench in the other while I was loosening the nut. Once the battery's out, take it to the auto parts store so they can test it to make sure it is indeed your battery that's bad, and then they can make sure you get the correct battery to replace it. Once you have the new battery, I usually go ahead and take one of these circular wire brushes and just go around it. The terminals are brand new, but this still ensures that you have bare metal and that it's fresh metal to go right up against the battery terminal clamp. In most of these little brushes, you can take the handle apart and they have a smaller brush inside that you can use on the terminal clamp itself. So I'm just showing how it would fit. It really takes two hands to do this, but one hand is holding the camera. So once you set the battery back in place within the car, you just need to replace the clamp that holds the battery down. You can see it right here. I didn't get it quite in there, so I had to shove the battery over. And you can see it seats in there the same as the old battery. You just replace the nut. This is the one that was rusted on and a little difficult to get off earlier. And just like taking the terminal clamps off, sometimes you need to tap them to get them back onto the battery. But It's gentle tapping. You don't need to bang on it hard. You don't want to mess up your battery. I don't know if you can see, I'm just gently tapping it down to slide it across the thing. And now you can see it's fully in place. Then retighten the nuts on the terminal clamps back onto the battery. This one had two different styles of clamps. I'm not sure why. But to get this one seated, I used a pair of pliers to set it a little bit on each side of the terminal post, and then again, just gently, very gently tapped it with a hammer, and you can see it seated it fully down without hitting the post itself. Then just tighten the nut. One trick you can use whenever you have little clearance is to flip the wrench around, because end wrenches have an angle that lets you get about half a turn more each time you flip it. Once you have the battery replaced, make sure everything is tightened and placed back into its proper position. Make sure there's no wrenches, hands, cords, or anything in the way of the engine, and everything is all clear before you try to restart it.